Welcome to the law school panel with the University of North Georgia. My name is Jeremy Connor. I'll be the moderator for the panel today. We have with us 7 panelists that I will take time to introduce as we get along for each panel. There will be a series of 3 sessions. First session will be for recruitment and admissions. Our second session will be with law school faculty and students. And our third session will be with legal professionals. An open Q&A session will follow the 3 sessions, and so feel free, if you have any questions, to type them into the chat at that time. Again, we will have questions we're going to ask them beforehand, so if you may have a question right now that may be answered during that panel session. So take time to listen to these questions and their responses, so that way you can gauge appropriately of what you need to do. With that in mind, I do want to thank both the University of Georgia School of Law, and I want to thank the Samford University's Cumberland School of Law for attending and bringing in professionals for admissions, legal faculty members, legal students to present today and be part of our panel. So I will introduce based on our first session, which will be for recruitment and admissions. First up is I'm going to say this correctly, I think, Miaoulis. She is, hey, I got it, thank you. So she is from the Cumberland School of Law at Samford University. She is currently the Director of Admissions. She previously had served as the Alumni Relations Director. Her educational experience is in the realm of marketing from Auburn, and as well as a master's in University of Alabama, focusing particularly on marketing analytics. And I'm also going to introduce our second presenter for this session, who's going to be Shannon Hinson, JD. She earned her Juris Doctor from the University of Georgia School of Law. Now, this is something I'm assuming, Shannon, is this correct?
That I earned my JD from UGA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
I'm a double dog. Yeah.
So double dog is something that goes directly into her line of work as well. She's the coordinator, she's director for dual degree programs. So at UGA, they have a bachelor's that leads into a JD program. So she works as director there. She's also associate director of admissions and a coordinator for graduate assistant program at the UGA School of Law. Her law career spanned over 8 years. Most recently was Swift, Curry, McGee, and Ayers, specializing in insurance defense and defense of physicians in malpractice actions. I will turn it over based on alphabetical order here. So I want to first give our panelist from the Cumberland School of Law, Kat, a chance to just give us a little sizzle session. Tell us a little bit about what the School of Law at Samford University, the Cumberland School of Law, is all about. So go ahead.
Great, perfect. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Good deal. Well, first off, thank you all for having me today. We are so excited to be here. I'm joined with Emily Davey, our Director of Clinics, Externships, and Public Interest, as well as Sadler McKeen, one of our 3L students who is our lead ambassador. So you'll hear from them later, but we are so excited to be here and talk with so many of you today. A little bit about Samford University's Cumberland School of Law. So we're in Birmingham, Alabama. If you haven't visited Birmingham, I would encourage y'all to do so. I would definitely encourage Birmingham as a place for young people to live, even if they were not going to law school. I think it's a great place to be. It's a fun young town, something to do every night if you wanted to. For Samford itself, we sit in Homewood, Alabama. So how Birmingham is divided up, it's almost small little municipalities that build up Birmingham. And so we are in Homewood, which is a beautiful, safe, nice area of Birmingham. Of course, we sit on Samford University's campus. Our classes, we have about 150 to 160 students per each class of law school. So about 450 people total in the law school alone. In this class right now, we have people from over 60 different undergraduate universities, and they come from 38 different majors, which I can hit on later. But we are about 60% in-state, 40% out-of-state. One thing that I think makes Cumberland really special is we want to make sure that while our students are coming through, they are getting a phenomenal education while also having great quality of life and having a good experience going through law school. I think you'll see that our students really care about each other and want to help each other get through law school together. And we also have phenomenal faculty that really care about our students as well. We have 8 different joint degree programs. Emily can talk about this later, but we're going to have 6 different clinics opportunities this upcoming spring, and many different facets of law that you can go into. So that's just a little bit of background, and I'm happy to provide more later as well.
Thank you so much for your time, Kat. I'm going to extend the same offer to Shannon to give her just a little bit of a sizzle spiel about what UGA School of Law is all about.
All right. So University of Georgia School of Law is the oldest law school in the state of Georgia. It was founded in 1859. We are located right on the heart of UGA's campus. For those of y'all who are familiar with Athens, we're sort of equidistant between the Arch and Sanford Stadium. We are the best value law school in the country. Again, this year, we've been either number 1 or number 2 for the last 7 years, according to National Jurist. We have the best bar passage rate in the state of Georgia for 10 years running. And we have a really teeny tiny price tag, which sort of feeds into that value consideration. For Georgia residents, we're less than $20,000 a year. For non-residents, it's 38-ish, but it's really easy to establish Georgia residency. And we have 9 dual degree programs. So I coordinate the dual, like JD MBA, JD MPA, like we've got 9 dual degree programs. And then we also have 18 experiential learning opportunities, including several in-house clinics that are located in downtown Athens. Tiffany is here with me today. She is one of our students. She works with our dean's ambassadors. And so she's going to talk to y'all later about her experience as a student. But I encourage y'all to come and visit us. If you're in Dahlonega, we're not that far away. If you're in some of the other UNG campuses, we're probably even closer. And so it's really easy to set up a campus visit and a student-led tour led by our dean's ambassadors. And that's just a great opportunity to kind of see what law school is all about. Even if you don't end up coming to my law school, I think it's a great idea to visit any law school to see what goes on here. And I look forward to answering some more questions later.
Righty, thank you so much for your time. So we are going to transition now to our law school panel. I was having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I apologize for that presentation issue. I'm going to reshare. So again, we're going to go into the law school faculty panel. That is incorrect. Pardon me. Let's see. We're going to step away from the presentation. Okay, cancel that. Transfer. All right. Very good. All right. Sorry about that. Let me transition. All right. So actually, I'm going to start first in this case with Kat. We have a series of 5 questions that we want to go over. So number 1, what is the GPA and LSAT score minimum for acceptance? And are those minimums at all flexible based on the incoming applicant pool to your school?
Yes, so we don't specifically have minimum requirements for GPA and LSAT. Our medians are a 155 on the LSAT and a 3.61 GPA. Our bottom 25th percentile is a 152 LSAT and a 3.33 GPA. When our admission committee is looking at applications, we are looking at a whole variety of the candidate. We really take that a holistic approach and review, and we look at so many different facets and factors of the person. So while we really do look at that GPA and LSAT, there's a lot of other aspects and areas that we're looking at as well. So while we don't have minimums, we do try to keep around that median of the 155 and a 3.61. I'll also say with that, one thing that we really try to focus on is we want to give our students as much scholarship opportunity as possible. And so this past year, over 98% of the incoming class had received some sort of merit scholarship. Our average scholarship was a little over $18,000. So the higher you go on that LSAT and the GPA, the higher the scholarship dollar goes. So while we don't have a minimum, the higher that you can get, the more scholarship dollars you'll receive.
Fantastic. Shannon, to the same question, what is the GPA and LSAT score minimum for the UGA's law school program, and are they flexible based on incoming applicant pools?
So we don't have a minimum either, but again, exactly like Sanford, Our medians are going to be informative on the likelihood of admission as well as the likelihood of a scholarship offer. So our median LSAT for the current 1L class is a 169, and the median GPA is a 3.83. 72% of the 1L class receive scholarships that range from, a couple $1,000 to full tuition plus, graduate assistantship, stuff like that. If you're looking to maximize your scholarship for University of Georgia School of Law, having at or above our medians is going to increase the likelihood of receiving some sort of offer. But again, if you're a Georgia resident, you're already paying less than $20,000.
Excellent. Second question, and this time I will begin with Shannon. Are there particular undergraduate degrees that your program values more, and are there any majors that students should be avoiding?
There is no such thing as a pre-law major. Every major can go to law school. I read a file yesterday of someone who is majoring in music and is an opera singer. Awesome. Tell me about it. There is no major you should avoid. If you are in a major that speaks to you, that you're excelling in, stick with it, because that GPA is going to be really important. And also, you want to do something that you like. So we see a lot of history, we see a lot of poli-sci, but we also see finance. We're seeing more STEM majors, whatever works.
Fantastic. Kat, same question. Any particular undergraduate degree programs that students should be looking at taking or avoiding?
I completely agree with Shannon. We see really every type of major, from dance to biochem, all across the board. We see so many different ones. I would say the most important thing with a student starting out in school, find something that you're passionate in and stick with that. We definitely see, like I said, that GPA does matter. And so if a student is passionate about what they're doing, hopefully that'll be reflected in their GPA. So find something that you're passionate in, stick with that. One thing, that we can encourage is take some classes to make sure that they are challenging. Maybe they can help you with the critical thinking and reading and writing. Those are some areas that you can look at trying to strengthen, but overall, you can do any major, whatever you're passionate in. Just make sure that, you're going to school for four years or more for undergrad. Make sure that it's something that you enjoy doing. And we see that translated through your application and through your transcript.
Fantastic. Kat, I'm going to jump right back to you. So I'm actually going to combine questions 3 and 4 here. So are there any factors that are weighed heavily in the admissions process, and will involvement in clubs or my work experience increase my chances of being accepted into your program?
That's a great question. Like I said earlier, we look at the whole application from a holistic review. So we are looking at so many different factors, from your resume to your transcript, to your personal statement, to letters of recommendation. So there are a lot of factors that apply. I would make sure, you focus on your personal statement, make sure that it's your best piece of writing and work. Some people on the committee are reading that to learn truly about you. Others are reading it as a writing sample to see how strong of a writer you are. So make sure that you really spend a lot of time on that. Other areas, on your resume, we're looking, have you had a lot of experience, or, if you haven't, have you dove deeper into some specific areas and have had leadership experience in that? I think either are a positive of either having that experience in leadership or being involved in many different things. Also, your letters of recommendation, they do carry a lot of weight with the admission committee. Make sure that the people who are writing your letters of recommendation truly know you. One thing that we have really seen a lot of success in is our students who get letters of recommendation from professors. Professors typically are very honest and tell the truth. And we normally get to learn a lot about a student through that. So to answer your question, I don't think, there's a specific, you need to be involved in certain clubs or certain involvement, but either having deep diving into leadership or being involved in a lot of different activities. And then also from factors being weighed heavily, I think we look at a multitude of different areas on the application.
Thank you, Kat. Shannon, I'm going to extend that same question back to you, and it's going to be a combo of number 3 and 4. So are there any factors that are weighed heavily in the admissions process, and will involvement in clubs or work experience increase chances of acceptance for the program at UGA?
Yeah, I mean, there's not like some algorithm that we're plugging things into. We are reviewing the file holistically and taking into account campus involvement, community involvement, work experience. It doesn't have to be legal work experience. You know, if you've been working in some field and you've just been paying attention to how law, policy, regulations impact that, talk about that. That's interesting. There isn't an interview portion. So just as Kat was saying, like, we want to see, we want you to tell us about yourself in your personal statement. We want your resume to be as long as it needs to be. We want your letters of recommendation to tell us about your work ethic and your character and things like that. So, I mean, campus involvement or things like that are going to be really great if it's meaningful involvement. Like, don't pad your resume. I would much rather see one or two things where it's like, oh, you held leadership position, or you can tell us about some opportunity where you like helped raise a bunch of money or connected with the administration, or, you know, there's lots of good ways to tell us about what kind of member of our community you could be. Yeah, put it all out there.
Thank you, Kat. Sorry, thank you, Shannon. Last question, and this will be for you, Shannon. Any advice that you would have for prospective students going into your law school that we haven't talked about?
I love it when applicants tell us what it is about my law school they want to take advantage of. That can be either in the personal statement, or if you're applying to a bunch of law schools and you want to have like one personal statement, you can do a separate like why UGA law statement. And it shows me that you've looked into it. Maybe you've visited, maybe you've looked online, maybe you are saying, oh, I went to that panel where she talked. And if you tell us like an experiential learning program that you want to take advantage of, or some professor that you want to learn from, we really like it when people tell us what it is about our community they want to become a part of. That's really helpful.
Thank you, Shannon. Kat, same question to you. Any advice you give prospective students to going into your law program?
Yeah, I guess two pieces of advice I have. One is, you know, for us or any other law school, go visit that school. You know, I think you can learn a lot about a school by visiting it. You can get the feel of the school, see if it's a place that you would want to be. You know, of course, we would love everyone to come here, but at the same time, we want to make sure that this is where you want to be as well. We give tours every day of the week if we're in the office. Our tours are about 2.5 hours, where you get to go on a tour with an admission ambassador. And those are our 2L students. And then we have 2 lead ambassadors that are our 3L students. And we tell them to tell the truth about law school. If they have you can ask any questions to our ambassador, and they're going to tell you, you know, what it's like to go to law school at Cumberland, or what are the classes like, things like that. You also get to sit in on a 1L class to see what law school is like. And then you get to meet with someone in our office. So I would encourage all of your top schools that you're interested in, go tour those schools, see if it's a place that you could see yourself being at. The second one is, you know, I think you'll learn this from a lot of law schools, but we want to be a resource for you during this admission process. You know, it can be scary or confusing applying to law school for the first time, or even if it's not the first time applying. We want to be able to serve as a resource to you. One thing about Cumberland, like I said earlier, we really focus on that quality of life. We're ranked 6th in the country for quality of life. And I think you'll see that coming through in our admission office, and then as well when you become a student. So we want to make sure that, you know, it's an enjoyable process, and that you're finding the place that best fits you. So, you know, call schools, email them. We want to be a resource to you and are happy to walk you through that admission process. You know, so visit and, you know, make sure to reach out and call. We're happy to serve as a resource to you.
Thank you, Kat, and thank you to our law school recruitment and admissions panel. We will now transition to the second session of our panel, which will be a panel with students and faculty from law schools. So bear with me as I share my screen, and I'll introduce our panelists for this session. All right, so faculty members, we have Emily Davey. She earned her BA in political science from Jacksonville State University, and she is a JD earned from University of Alabama School of Law. She was a senior editor for the Alabama Law Review, a Hugo Black Scholar, and she currently serves in multiple leadership roles for Birmingham's Bar Association. She's had over 30 years of litigation experience, most recently with Jones Walker LLP, where she served as partner, and she specializes in commercial and personal injury litigation while she was serving in litigation services. She's currently serving as Director of Clinics, Externships, and Public Interest in the Cumberland School of Law at Samford University, and she teaches Contracts and Externships seminar. Emily, welcome to the panel. You are our sole panelist for faculty members, so I will ask these questions directly to you. So we have 4 questions for you, Emily. First question, what do you feel are some of the biggest factors to students succeeding in the classroom throughout law school? Emily, you are muted, so please unmute and then we'll try again.
I'm sorry, I messed up.
You're fine. It's online formats are fun.
Thank you for having us. You'd think after, what is it now, 3 years on Zoom, we'd all have it together, but we don't. So students, thank you for having us and letting us talk to you about coming to law school. So what do I think are some of the biggest factors to succeeding in the classroom? Well, first of all, I want you to realize coming to law school is not really the same as going and getting your undergraduate degree. There's just more required. There's more reading. You have to keep up with it so that you can participate in class and learn the material. Another factor I think that's really important for students to know and understand is that it's law school isn't about just memorizing a bunch of things and putting them on a test. It is about learning the material and then being able to apply it in new situations. And that requires a lot of study time and looking at additional materials on your part. So I think being prepared, going to class, obviously, and engaging with the professors are key factors in doing well. I also think, and this is, I think, one of the great things I love about Cumberland, which is all of our professors are available to students. We all have office hours. And I think a lot of students are really successful because they come to office hours and ask the professors questions. So if as you tour schools and look at that, I would ask that question. Are the professors available to me when I have other issues or I have trouble understanding the material? You know, another factor in law school is just juggling time management. It's a lot thrown at you at one time. And you have to be able to deal with that and be able to manage your time wisely. So those are really all the factors I see in students that do very well in law school.
And it is very important to manage your time because not only are you managing your time, you're also managing your money with this. So it is very important, like Emily is saying, to prepare yourself well. Second question, Emily, are there any majors that you would recommend to best prepare them for the content found in law school?
No, not really. I want to echo what Kat and Shannon both said, which is we see students coming into law school with all different kinds of majors. Now, I'm going to add a caveat to that. I want you to do whatever you can to get additional writing during your undergrad. So if you are a dance major, I want to see you participating in classes where you're actually researching and writing, not because it's important for the admissions process, but because it's important for you when you come to law school that you've had that experience. A lot of law school is focused on your ability to take material and then write about it. So having that background is always going to help you.
And I will actually echo what Emily is saying. So a lot of the students that we have on call today, they have various majors, but a lot of those majors are focused directly on lots of research and writing and reading, which you will be doing in law school. So it's good to have that background to prepare you, but there is no required major to go into law school. And we've heard it from 3 professionals at this point. Do what you want, do what interests you, but make sure that you are getting that component in that Emily is talking about concerning the writing, the research, the reading. Third question, can your students concentrate on classes that are a specific type of law, such as business law, criminal law, international law?
Absolutely. So now the first year, you'll have only required classes. You will be with the same people and it will be like going back to junior high school. Okay. And you'll have lockers and you'll be with a set of people and it's very much that environment. But when you get to your second and third year, you'll need to start making some choices about electives and what you want to do. We have certain tracks for students. So if you're interested in litigation, then you can go to our website and see what courses we would recommend for someone going into litigation. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to take all of those. It's just suggestions for what you might want to take if you want to enter that field. And obviously also our professors are available to talk you through. I do this a lot where students come in and I say, hey, what are you thinking about taking? And we walk through what they're thinking about. And I try to say, hey, I think since you're going into this, I would recommend taking, this particular class. So use your professors like that. They can be very helpful when you get into law school. Quick answer, yes, after your first year, you get to tailor what it is that you want to focus on. You'll have some required classes in the second and third year as well, but each school is different with that.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then I guess the last question would be, are there opportunities, and this will go right into your ballpark, are there opportunities to expand professional legal networking within your law school program, such as clerking, internship, externship opportunities?
Yes. In fact, I think networking is one of the things here at Cumberland that we stress highly, even during the first year. So a lot of getting your next job or your next opportunity will be because you networked with other professionals. And so we do encourage it. So here's how we do that. The first way we do that is even during your first year, we'll have events usually put on by our career development office for you to have an opportunity to network with the lawyers who are mainly in and around Birmingham. Those are great events just for you to get this whole concept of networking and to meet others who are involved. Another way we do it is just having various speaker opportunities where professionals come and speak with us. As an example, I think next week, we're having lawyers who are in the construction law industry come and do a panel discussion for our students. So you can network that way by going to various events in and around campus. And then the third and fourth ways really are what I'm involved with in the school, which are clinics and externships. So those are opportunities in your second and third year to either work one-on-one in an externship, which can be, say, for instance, at a judge's office or at a district attorney office or a public defender, and you'll network there as you work and gain class credit. The second way to network is through our clinical opportunities, which for next spring, we have 6 clinical opportunities. 4 of those are in the criminal law field. 2 are involved at our local public defender's office. 1 is an innocence clinic, and the other one is a new clinic, our Cumberland Parole Clinic. So we have lots of opportunities if you're involved in criminal law or light criminal law. We also have 2 other clinics. One is our Veterans Clinic, which seeks to help local veterans who need assistance with landlord-tenant disputes or wills or powers of attorney. And that's been very, very popular with our students. We're starting in the spring a new clinic that is a contracts and risk management clinic where we're partnering with a local insurance brokerage firm and their in-house counsel to teach our students about contracts and all of the issues involved in contracts, particularly in the construction and surety industry. So those are ways for you to get some experience, sort of try out a new area, gain class credit, and hopefully develop a passion for what you want to do in the future. Now you're on mute, Jeremy.
You got me. You got me. So again, I should know better. Emily, thank you for your time. We're going to transition now to our second panel, which will be our law school students. So bear with me. I'm going to have a brief introduction to these law school students who are very, very mild in their description of who they are because they are quite qualified. So share this. So again, we'll start in alphanumerical order here. Sadler McKeen, he is a student at the Cumberland School of Law at Samford University. He was a finance major from the University of Notre Dame, and on his hobbies interest, he says swimming. Do not let that fool you. He is a real swimmer. NCAA athlete, full on. So, and I list this not to embarrass our ambassadors that are presenting, but he's currently undecided about which legal field specialty he wants to go into. And he is not the only one. Tiffany Torchia, she is a ambassador with the University of Georgia School of Law. She's a 2L student, earned her bachelor's in communication studies from University of Georgia. Like Shannon mentioned, a double dog. I would order that as a hot dog at a hot dog stand. I think that'd be awesome, but no, unfortunately not. She is currently undecided about which legal field, but she is currently leaning towards potentially either international law or sports law. And so the reason I highlight that last part is not to embarrass our presenters, but to show that even in law school, you're probably not going to know what field you're going to go into. That may not be something until you get hired on to a firm or hired on into a particular legal occupational field that you develop that interest. So do not be afraid that once you're in law school, if you don't know where you're going, that's not abnormal. So we will start with the panelists, and I'm going to go again in alpha order. So I will start with Sadler. Sadler, first question, what has the adjustment been like for you going from your undergrad to law school program? And currently, what course from your undergrad would you say that would best prepare you for the courses you take at law school?
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Jeremy. The adjustment period, definitely more work than undergrad. That's for sure. But that being said, there are a couple things that play into that. For me, I found the number one thing to help with that adjustment was finding a place that had the right people and the right community for you. And I mean, Cumberland has had that in bounds. Being around people who are, willing to help you be your best and that you can go hang out with outside of school, on weekends or like get dinner with, get lunch with, that kind of thing. That's really been essential to making that adjustment smooth and helping you get through it. Now, as far as like adjustment to the workload goes, one of the best things I can compare it to.
Sorry, Sadler, we'll come right back to the second question. So we'll hold tight on that one. All right. So Tiffany, same question to you. What's your adjustment like going from undergrad to law school? And what do you feel like was an undergrad course that best prepared you for law school?
Thanks for having me. First and foremost, I'm really happy to be here. Any capacity that I can help, especially people who are pre-law. Adjustment wise, I would say that my experience was also really smooth. Not only is this a really great community, a very tight-knit community, even though we are, among a massive university, you'll find that the law school community here is just very close and everyone's very supportive. And UGA Law is great because you have your own team essentially of people who are in your corner from before you even start law school. So we have a faculty mentor, a peer mentor, and a professional mentor, along with a career development advisor. So, you have all facets of law school and even your future covered as far as support and people who can be there for even the silly questions, like what do you even wear to law school, and things along those lines. So
no powdered wigs, huh?
No, unfortunately not. But we also do have, I was lucky enough to go to undergrad here, so I was already familiar with the campus. And I also was lucky enough, here we have a pre-law minor that undergraduate students can participate in. So I had already taken some law classes with the law professors, and I've actually had some of them multiple times because of that. But even if, I have a lot of friends who are out of state, one of the things that I really enjoyed was we have a summer success program. So you start about a week early from the actual orientation date as a 1L. And for me, that was awesome because, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I kind of felt like there was nothing that could really prepare me for the experience. And so the way that it works is there's a professor who teaches a mock class, and then there's also a professor who kind of talks about, what are you looking at as far as the student experience and things you can get involved in, things you should get involved in, and everything along those lines. So that was just kind of a great way to throw me right into everything. And so I'd say that was very helpful. And then course-wise, like everyone else has said, there's really no major, no specific course that is right on point. There's nothing like law school, but I definitely can agree. I was communication studies major, so I had a lot of rhetorical studies, a lot of writing experience. And so I've found that that's been a big advantage, but it's not necessary. And yeah, so I would just say from my experience, my leadership experience, and, being able to time manage and be under stress and acclimate was probably more helpful than any academic course that I took.
And I did not properly glow you up either, because you have a wonderful, just like Sadler, wonderful experience with leadership in your undergrad. And so both of you are great ambassadors for your respective programs. I'm going to go back to you, Tiffany, for the second question. What is the workload expectation in law school, and what are some beneficial study habits to develop while you are in undergrad?
I will say that I think everyone kind of knows that law school is going to be a lot more work than undergrad, but I think a lot of it depends on how you approach it. So the way that I was told, the advice that I got was approach law school like a 9-to-5 job. And I have a lot of friends who do that, who will come in and, work from 8 a.m. They'll study and everything, and they'll go home and eat dinner at 5. And it's a pretty normal schedule. And then there's also people who, are, doing the work day to day, staying up late. I kind of think it just depends on how you approach that amount of work. And so I would say, as far as your expectations, like, you can expect to work hard, but it's really a lot, it comes down to, how are you going to handle it personally? And then as far as beneficial study habits, I would just say be disciplined. Don't slack off in undergrad, because you can't do that in law school. You've got to be able to pace yourself, stay on track, be willing to go to professors and forge a relationship with them, and lean on your classmates. And so I would just say it's probably more about the little things and the little habits more than it is like one thing that you could do in undergrad, because they're not the same experience.
Thank you, Tiffany. And just as a point of clarification to our guests, 1L, 2L, 3L, it's not a Dr. Seuss book. It's basically the year of law school that you're in. So 1L, you're freshman, nominal, 2L, so on and so forth. So, as for example, Tiffany is a 2L and Sadler is a 3L. I've got that correct, right? Yep. Okay. Fantastic. So, Sadler, moving on to you, same question that I had asked Tiffany. What is the workload expectation in law school, and what are some beneficial study habits to develop while in undergrad?
Yeah, so I mean, there's no one expectation, because everybody's a little different. The best thing I can compare like the amount of the workload to, especially coming right after undergrad, is if you're an athlete or you worked a job in undergrad, it's basically taking those extra hours you spent doing that and now changing that to extra studying. And so, it really does kind of equate to a 9-to-5 job. I mean, that being said, like, people handle that differently. Some people love to come in and just grind from 9 to 5 and go home, have their nights, have their mornings. I myself, I'm a little more social during the day. I'm kind of like floating around talking to people, which means that I have to stay late at night and get my work done. And, that's just the price I pay. Some people like to get in early in the mornings and, be done and have their entire afternoon and evening. So there are really a lot of unique ways to approach it. And I mean, I think the best thing you can do is just, spend the amount of time you need to spend to develop that understanding. And then some like beneficial study habits to develop while you're in undergrad. I'm not sure I quite got to this on the last question, but the undergrad class that really changed things for me was constitutional law. And the reason was like, it just kind of addressed a whole new way of thinking. And that's something you have to be open to coming to law school. When you're presented with a problem, you've got to find your issue. You've got to figure out which laws and which rules apply to that, and how to address that with your facts and how to apply it to the situation. And so being able to learn how to do that effectively is something that takes time, and it takes work. And I think that's the biggest thing coming into law school, is just being open to that.
Thank you, Sadler. And I'm going to throw it right back at you for question number 3.
All
How
right.
expensive is law school, and what are some financial aid opportunities that you took advantage of?
Yeah, so I believe Cumberland's cost of tuition is around like $44,000. We're a private school, so it's the same for in-state and out-of-state. And as Kat mentioned earlier, we have great scholarship opportunity. 98% of students get scholarships, and those scholarships average around $18,000. And so that was something that definitely helped with me. But as well, we have a very active financial aid office. We have one advisor, her name's Sherry Garrett, and she's in charge of just law and MBA students. And so, I literally went to her and I was like, okay, I have this much money in my bank account now. I want this much money in my bank account at the end of the semester. What do I need to do? And she's like, okay, we're going to take out like this much in loans. This is going to go to this. This is going to go to this. And so, that was really helpful in figuring that out. And, she plays a very active role on campus and with our students here. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sadler. Tiffany, same question. How expensive is law school, and what kind of financial aid opportunities did you take advantage of?
I'm going to give you the lawyer answer, which is it depends. But specifically talking about UGA law, obviously Ms. Hinson mentioned earlier that we're best value, and part of that is because our tuition is so low, and it usually is around $20,000 for in-state. And Ms. Hinson, you might have to support me here on the out-of-state. I actually don't know it. But
it's like 38,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is very low compared to a lot of other options, just even in the state of Georgia. And as far as like financial aid and scholarship opportunities, like it's already been touched on, there's so many, and there's a scholarship deadline. So people who apply, I think it's before February 1st, will be considered for that. And that's not even the limit. Of course, there's other circumstances where financial aid might be applicable, but as far as support for figuring out, how do I deal with loans and all of that, I've never felt like I couldn't go and talk to someone, as far as especially in admissions, on like how to handle that. And I think that a great part of UGA law is there are a lot of employment opportunities that can help with that. So when you're thinking about looking towards the future, one thing that was important for me in coming to UGA law was I knew that my career opportunities would be well enough that taking on that kind of debt was not as much of a scary thing. I knew I wanted to go into the private sector. I knew the types of employment opportunities. And so for me, it wasn't the end of the world to have to take on that kind of debt. But yeah.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for also pointing out the importance of opportunities to look as far as occupations while in law school, to kind of help fund it alongside your work that you're doing in class. Last question, and I'm going to first direct this to Tiffany. What are some common classes that law school students take?
So as was brought up earlier, during your first year, your courses are selected for you. And so what that kind of looks like, at least for UGA law, is you're taking the foundational courses that will help you kind of build for the rest of law school and even your career. So your first semester, you would take contracts, torts, and I'm blanking on the last one. Civil procedure, not my favorite class. It's no wonder I didn't just remember that. But you also take legal research and legal writing. So it's a really good balance of, you're not only looking at the more abstract things like contracts and torts, but you're also looking at, learning how to write like a lawyer and research like a lawyer, which is, there's no value on that. And there's endless value on that, sorry. And then for your second semester, you'll take criminal law, property law, and I'm blanking on the last one for that semester.
Con law. You take con law.
Constitutional law. And you
an elective.
Yes. So one thing that's special about UGA law is you get to choose an elective. And for me, that changed my whole direction in law school. Like I said, I'm undecided about, where I want to go, what kind of law, but it was a really great opportunity because there's so many courses that you can choose from. So it's anything from, the more criminal side, like criminal procedure, evidence. You can take trust in estates. And for me, I took public international law. And so that kind of opened my world to, oh, well, I'm actually really interested in this. And actually, that's what led me to studying abroad. But that's just a wonderful opportunity in of itself because you have a little bit of control and you get a taste of your academic freedom for the next couple of years where you get to actually build your course schedule. And the most helpful thing on that end is, when you are structuring your schedule, every state has a list of what's going to be on the bar. And so I know a lot of common classes that students take are usually a couple of classes that they know are going to be on the bar every year. And then the rest is either clinics, externships, or elective classes like sports law.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Tiffany. Sadler, I'm going right back to you. Same question that I had asked Tiffany. Just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably a lot of overlap here because law schools have similar required classes. But first semester 1L year, you're going to take criminal law, civil procedure, contracts, torts, and a writing class. And I mean, Tiffany kind of touched on it, but I think, Professor Davey is one of our great contracts professors. So not, trying to say anything about contracts, but I think my favorite class 1L year was probably, or most beneficial at least, was LLR, which is our writing class, just because it completely breaks down, how to legally write. And that's different than the writing you're doing in undergrad for maybe your like poli-sci or philosophy or psychology classes. They go down to the sentence and they're like, this is how you need to structure your sentences. This is how you build out that paragraph. This is what each paragraph should look like. And going into summer work, that was something that really like helped me stand out. That like, I was working with at one place a Cumberland grad from 10 years ago, and they were like, "Do you have this LLR professor?" And I was like, "I did." So he knew exactly where it was coming from. Going into second semester 1L year, you'll take property, evidence, civil procedure again, contracts again, and then LLR again. And just doing those classes like Civ Pro, LLR, contracts, doing them twice really just helps build that base of knowledge just because it's such an expansive amount of material. And then going into 2L, 3L year, you still have a few requirements left, but you're kind of free on when you take them. You'll take con law 2 semesters, you'll take criminal procedure, you'll take business organizations, and you'll take secured transactions. And the reason we have all those requirements is because all of those subjects are the subjects that are going to be tested on the bar. And so it's really about just as you go through law school, kind of preparing for the bar along the way. And then of course, that summer before the bar when you'll be studying, like it's more of just a review at that point of everything you've had to do.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, Sadler, Tiffany. This will conclude our panel for the student presenters. And now we are going to transition to our legal professionals. So bear with me as I get this back up. All right. And again, in alphabetical order here, we'll start with Madeline. Madeline Pendley, she earned her political science pre-law degree as a BS pre-law degree from University of North Georgia. She earned her JD from Stetson University College of Law, where she was the captain of the trial team and also on the law review, and earned the prestigious Walter Mann Awardee as she graduated. She's currently an associate attorney with 11 Papantonia Rafferty in Pensacola, Florida, and she specializes in pharmaceutical mass torts. And that last part is from a previous slideshow where I did a presentation, so ignore that part. And then we also have Wil Maxwell, and he has earned his BA political science from North Georgia College State University, which is now transitioned to University of North Georgia. He earned his JD from the University of Georgia School of Law. His work experience, he served as a law clerk and staff attorney for various superior court judges in the Anoka Judicial Circuit, 9th District in the state of Georgia. He served in a private practice and was associate to Zach Tumlin, who was a public defender. Now he is currently serving as a chief magistrate judge and associate juvenile court judge for Lumpkin County, Georgia. So I welcome both of our presenters as legal professionals for the panel today. I will start again alphabetically, so I will start with Madeline. Welcome, Madeline. And first question I have for you, how did you effectively prepare for the bar exam?
Wow. Okay. So thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. For the bar exam in particular. So one, I took the Florida bar exam from Georgia, went to UNG, but then went to Stetson in Tampa for law school. So you definitely have to treat it like a job. I think there is a temptation to, once you're done with your classes and you graduate, that you can let off a little bit. Definitely take a day or two just so you know, celebrate the milestone, but then that Monday, get right back into it. So I actually was talking to some law students, some from Cumberland just last week, about studying for the bar. And I got the comment that a lot of people do still have to work when they're studying for the bar exam. So you obviously, one, I think if you don't have to work, try not to scale back as much as you can. Even if you can just take out one extra loan or something to get you through, I would. No financial advisor, but you do not want to have to sit through that twice if you're able to make the time for it the first time around. So I know it sounds like, you know, very privileged to say, just treat it like a job, like, because you don't have to work. But even if you do have to work, do everything you can to clear your schedule, so that you only have to do it one time around. And to some of y'all's points that you mentioned throughout the panel, it's more than just memorizing the content. Like, I have a good memory, so I did fine in college. Just make your flashcards and then put that test away and never think about it again. But with the bar, you really do have to understand, because there's, you know, at least in Florida, all the essay portions where you have to be able to issue, spot, and identify. And there's no amount of just pure memorization and regurgitation that can help you issue, spot. And by that, I mean, it's a factual scenario, and you have to be able to say, okay, I can see that this cause of action applies, this defense applies, and answer the whole problem, I guess. And so your sticky notes that you made are not really going to get you through that. You have to really, really drill down and practice. So it's important while you're in law school to find a study technique that helps you actually absorb the content rather than just be able to spit it out later.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Wil, going to you, how did you effectively prepare for the bar exam?
It was similar to what Ms. Pendley says, and then kind of similar to what the previous folks have been saying about just being disciplined. Kind of when I graduated, I took off, not as motivated as Ms. Pendley. I took off a couple weeks and then spent, I would say, 7 weeks, and I was still living in Athens at the time. And it was probably the easiest part of law school. I mean, it's stressful to have to pass the bar, but, you know, to me, after having 1L year where you're in school from 9 to 5 or whatever, and then studying in between classes. And then for me, I had to study in the evening too, to get by. I found that it was a lot easier. There was I treated it like a 9 to 5, got up, and I would put in, you know, a few hours worth of work in the morning, eat a normal lunch, hours in the afternoon, maybe go for a quick walk to the store, and then do a few more hours. And by 4:30 or 5, you know, I could hang it up, and it was a lot easier, you know, go work out, watch the Braves, grill out with your roommates. And so a lot of folks took classes, like actually signed up and paid for a class. I had, I think, some Kaplan books that another law student had, and I just, you know, pounded the books similar to how you would an LSAT. I found that the LSAT was harder mentally taking it than the bar. I mean, you got 2 full days of the bar, but for me, the LSAT was much more difficult, and like running a marathon to get through a test and be that locked in. But the bar, you know, a lot of it is going to be a review from your courses that you took in law school. But by the time you're a 3L and graduate, you've already learned how to learn. And so I wasn't scared of the non-bar classes, you know, that they presented. You just learn them. We did have an essay section. It's very similar to what Ms. Pendley said. Of course, you have to not just regurgitate information like the, you know, portions, I think is the MBE they call it, but there is a essay portion, and you need to learn how to think and issue, spot, and I think just analyze information. So I agree a lot with what she said there.
Thank you, Will. Just as a point of reference too, he was mentioning about study books, like he's mentioned the Kaplan study guides that you can utilize for LSAT or BAR. Be aware that as a UNG student, you have access to UNG libraries, and not just UNG libraries, but any University System of Georgia library through interlibrary loan. So you can check out these books at no cost. So you don't have any extra cost on top of all the stuff you're looking at for law school. And you can check it out for a month with 2 renewals of a month each. Also, if you're a Georgia resident, Pines libraries or local libraries, the entire local library system can have these books as well. Use those resources so you can save yourself some money as you go forward. I'm going to turn right back to Will. Will, I'm going to ask you a second question. What was the process for you to get into your current legal profession after law school?
Yes. So I graduated law school in 2013, and we're kind of coming out of the 2008 financial crisis. And so for me, I don't come from a family of attorneys, but there was a process online that there would be job postings after your second year of law school, going into your third, after your first, going in your second. There's a big application process for some of your bigger firms. And coincidentally, I had an interview with Miss Hinson at her firm in Midtown. And so that was a part of it. Didn't get a job at one of those big firms, and then came out of law school not having a job, and then looking at those job postings online. And then coincidentally, an internship that I'd done one summer, one of the courthouse janitors told me, hey, they got a law clerk position at the Enoto Circuit, which they didn't post that through UGA for whatever reason. And so I heard about it word of mouth, and then just applied and got the job out of law school as a staff attorney law clerk.
And so that really points to that idea of networking, and it's not just within legal fields. Networking in general is very helpful for you, letting you have that ear on the wall in various places for occupational opportunities. Madeline, same question. What was the process for you getting into your legal profession after law school?
Similar theme in the networking, and also back to what you guys were talking about earlier, in that it's okay to be undecided. I say that because even applying to law school, is like, I'm going to be a prosecutor. I want trials. I want to put bad people away. This is what we're going to do. No question about it. And everyone is like, you're not going to end. I was like, don't talk to me. This is what I'm doing. So that was the plan. I had accepted a job just through networking my last semester of law school at the prosecutor's office, signed the little paper, like, I promise I will work here. And then the last maybe month of the semester, we had a trial team competition, and the girl on my team, her dad is Mike Papantonio at the firm Levin Papantonio I ended up at. And he called me while I was studying for the bar and was like, I was just talking to, my daughter, Sarah, and I didn't realize you were staying in Florida. I thought you were going back to Georgia. Would you like to come work for me? And I was like, what? I've already committed to all this other stuff or whatever. But long story short, it worked out. But it was very much a just meeting the right people at the right time. It totally changed the direction of my employment. I moved from St. Pete to Pensacola to take the job and stuff. So I will just say, don't stress too much about trying to find the perfect job. It will find you. And even if it's not right after school, just work somewhere and then change after a year. Like I was talking to a lot of kids last week who were just so fired up, like nerves were shot about trying to find their perfect forever job. And you eventually will, but it's okay if it's not right this second and you don't know what it is. So network. And the last thing I'll say is you can be super qualified. I'm sure you all will be, but honestly, even if you're not, having someone that likes you and connects with you and is willing to vouch for you, that networking aspect can take you a lot farther than even just a GPA, and you never networking with anybody, if that makes sense. So do what you need to do, get your foot in the door, and then meet the right people.
Yep. And you will see that a lot of people are going to have on average anywhere from 12 to 20 jobs over the course of their lifetime. There may not be a lifetime job. And you see with a lot of our panelists, they move from one position to another. That's just life. That's just how it works in the working field. So don't be intimidated by that at all. Madeline, I'm going to throw it right back to you for the question number 3. What would be one piece of advice that you wish that you knew or had accepted to be true before you got into law school?
I think probably the biggest thing from just a emotional, mental standpoint is just that you deserve the opportunities that you're getting just as much as everybody else. So I'll mention, I don't have family members that are attorneys. My parents had graduated from college, and then I went to a small college and then right into a private law school. So a lot of these kids, like, they've got big money, they've got parents that can help them with everything, which is great. But there's a lot of opportunities you're going to have, especially in law school and on, where you might feel like, should I be here? Like, am I qualified to do this? Or you'll get, even now they put me on freaking panels and I'm like the youngest person there. And there's like these really big dog trial lawyers. I'm like, I have done one trial and a couple of depositions. Like, so you'll get in your head. And I think it's just important to remember you deserve to be there as much as anybody else. And it'll help you get through some of this stuff.
Yeah, that your place is there and it's going to be okay.
Right.
Wil, same question. One piece of advice that you wish you knew or accepted to be true
Yeah.
before you got into law school?
I think the first few months of law school are difficult no matter who you are. And I remember thinking what Ms. Pendley did about, UNG, we produce great high standard too. I know we got some Notre Dame folks here, so, big time academics, but, you are qualified once you get there. I think just going through and being disciplined and prepared, it is a step up. It's kind of like the difference between, 8th grade and freshman year of college, about the difficulties of that. So just be prepared there. And one thing, I remember the first few months, I always thought that if you had the Cliff Notes in literature, you were kind of cheating, that you were lazy. But if I had to do over law school again, that first, that 1L year, they have these little bitty books that kind of summarize the cases. And so it's very difficult to read, 5 to 50 page opinion and pull out the things you need to when you haven't done that before. And so don't feel like you're cheating by getting the Cliff Notes. Read that first and kind of get the background, and then, go into reading your cases. Don't skip out and don't read the cases because you need to. But I remember that. And then job 2, again, what Ms. Pendley said, I was a public defender for over 5 years, and that was great, but I did not think I could do that job. I thought I could only be a prosecutor or whatever else. I didn't think that I could, just me personally, not they don't deserve it, but kind of started doing that work in private practice. And then it turned into being a public defender for a good while. And so, yes, you'll change jobs and kind of figure out, in the legal field, what works best for you and how you're made and what you're meant to do in life.
Thank you, Wil. Thank you for that. I'm going to again throw it back to you for question number 4. What does your day-to-day working in your job look like?
Yeah. So now I'm a magistrate judge and also serve as an associate juvenile court judge. And so we have, multiple days in the week where we'll have court, and that can depend on a delinquency case, which is your criminal context for children, or a dependency, which is your defects cases where parents and a child's taken away. And then in magistrate court world, it's small claims and then arrest warrants, search warrants. So it varies widely. On the search warrants and arrest warrants, we're on call a lot. So I'll get calls throughout the day, in the evenings, and then first thing in the morning, this morning, 7 a.m., night shift guy calls me, hey, I got a search warrant. And thankfully we have FaceTime and things that we can use, that it's so much easier for my generation to do that type of work. And then court, you're going through and you try to be prepared for court like you would school, and that you've read the file beforehand, read the motion beforehand, and at least know the area to listen to. Because what's bad for a judge is if you think you know it, but then you don't, and then you don't listen for the right facts as they are presenting to you. And then throughout the day, it's reading, putting out fires in front of you. You'll have a call from somebody in the magistrate world, complaining about something, and then they'll want to go to the judge, or law enforcement will come to you and say, hey, we got this problem with executing a writ of possession. What does the law say to do? And so you're kind of don't have clients anymore, but you're still kind of using that side of your brain to advise others about how to comply with the law.
Thank you, Wil. Moving to Ms. Pendley, what does your day-to-day working in your job look like?
So similar, it very much depends. I'm an associate at my firm, so a lot of my schedule depends on everyone around me. And we do mass torts primarily. So we represent plaintiffs. Where I've kind of ended up is mostly in pharmaceutical and product liability litigation, and getting into some environmental claims as well. So it is a lot of client management on my side. And by that, I mean, like, we'll represent thousands of people against a defendant manufacturer. And it's not a class action because they all have their own little cases. So it's a lot of A lot of talking with the clients, a lot of reviewing their medical records, working up their cases, anticipating weak points, but also moving into, because I have my own kind of single event cases so that I can get more trial experience. So I do have a lot of depositions, a lot of mediations. We get a lot of corporate representative depositions in this job to where, so we were suing Teva, a pharmaceutical company, and we got to haul in their corporate rep from India and depose him for 7 hours and stuff. So, I mean, it's really cool. And some of this gets into the next question, so I'll save it. But it's a lot of litigation prep for me. I'm not often the one leading the trial because in the mass tort world, it is multiple firms from all across the country on a plaintiff steering committee. So when a trial comes up, it's then all the big guys from all those firms fighting for a trial spot. So while our firm may be driving the trial, it's usually my boss speaking at the trial, and I'm just this little henchman behind the scenes. So that's kind of the day-to-day. It's just long days, and I should redo my picture because I haven't seen the sun in like 2 years. That was a very tanned person who slept a lot in that picture, but it is rewarding. So it's just busy.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time. And don't worry about the picture. I think you did fine with the headshot. Number 5. So this is going to be our last question for this panel. What has been the most difficult challenge and greatest reward or benefit working in your current job? And they'll start with Madeline here.
So along those lines, we represent a lot of people at one time. So we do feel that when a case resolves, we have made a more impactful effort sometimes than a single event case. I do think the single, and by single event, I mean your normal, one plaintiff, one defendant, or one instance. Those are very rewarding as well because you really get to connect with the client. I have liked the mass tort space because when you do get resolution, it is impactful. So we were working on the PFAS litigation. It's really science heavy, but from a high level view, it's very dangerous chemicals in drinking water all over the country. So we were prepped for trial. Supposed to go to trial in June. It was going to be a 6-week trial where we all just move up to Charleston and live there for 6 weeks and try this case. And it ended up settling the night before openings, which sucks, but it settled for $12 billion. And that company now has to pay to clean up drinking water all over the country. So you feel like, okay, like this, I'm leaving a lasting impact. I mean, no one will know that was Madeline Pendley, but like I do, I know I had a piece in that. So it's really rewarding in that way. But similarly, when they go south or you don't get the reward you want, you just feel awful because these civil cases take years and years to resolve, and you've kind of drug these plaintiffs through it, and they're so hopeful, and a lot of them have cancer for whatever reason on the projects I work on, and so they're pursuing it on behalf of like a loved one who's died, and this case is their last chance to kind of vindicate their spouse or parent or whomever. And when it goes south, it is just devastating. And you spend a lot of time on the phone walking them through it. And I had a depo in Tennessee where I was at the lady's house, and she was, my client, and I prepped her, whatever, and the case got thrown out, and she just called me crying. And I mean, it's hard, so just working with the real people is the best part and the worst part when it doesn't go how you want.
It sounds like a lot of that is them seeking closure in that particular event, and then you are the one kind of leading that charge, per se.
One outlet for their closure, which is good but hard.
Yeah, understood. Wil, same question to you. So what is the greatest reward, benefit, and most difficult challenge in working your current job?
Yes, so as a public defender, I was an advocate, and so you never actually have to make a decision. I mean, you're making a decision on how you will counsel a client or the arguments you're making in court. And I was relating a lot of what Ms. Pendley was saying about the ups and downs of trial, or preparing and then settling a case before, which, works out good too. But when you're a judge, the big difference is kind of like a prosecutor or judge, you're actually having to make a decision. And so rather than advocate to whatever my client's side is, I'm arguing a motion to suppress and I'll come up with the best arguments. You're actually taking the law and the facts presented and coming up with a decision. And so that can come from a small thing, it's small in the realm of the posture of the case of an arrest warrant, but you have it on this person's word of a serious offense, and are you going to arrest someone or take away their liberty? And then just in general, day to day, you come with, maybe not day to day, but monthly, I'll have a pretty serious case to where you really have to grind down and you're the one making the decision. And so that can be the most difficult and rewarding. sometimes when you get to, I think it goes to also the rewarding side, when you feel like you've made a good decision, you've had I got to serve with Superior Court to do some misdemeanor trials. And there was a pretty cool motion to suppress with some kind of novel issues, and got to research that heavily. And I don't think they took it up to find out if the appeals agreed or not, but you felt good about the decision you made there, and were very systematic on how you went through. And so that can be rewarding when you feel like you make a good decision. Or in the child dependency world, you have a mom who's on drugs or whatever, and you're trying to steer her back in the right direction. And so you have to think through things. How do I encourage her? How do I create safeguards of drug testing and incentives and, bad things like jail that can happen, to try to get that person to be the best parent they can. And so that can be rewarding when it comes out good. And, also, think what could I have done better or different whenever they're still struggling with that. And so kind of the same side of the different side of the same coin, with the positives of challenge and rewards for me.
Thank you so much, Wil. I appreciate that time too. For both our panelists for the legal professional panel. So we are now going to transition into our last portion of the event, which is going to be an open Q&A session. So for all of our guests, please use the Zoom chat feature to ask your questions to our panelists, and please address specific roles or individuals within your question. So if you want to talk to the legal professionals, you can address one legal professional, you can address both. But go ahead and take the time to use your chat feature in order to ask these questions. All right, so I will start with our first question, and this is going to be directed for admissions and recruitment. This is a student that was dual enrolled. Her name is Madison. She was at 16 years old, and she'd earned some C's and D's in her dual enrollment, and she later retook those classes and earned A's. LSAC, LSAC counts both the original course and retake, which lowers my overall GPA. How does your admissions office view retakes, and do you have any advice in order to be competitive in admissions?
I'll start answering this. So this is a great opportunity to write an addendum explaining what happened. LSAC calculates your cumulative undergraduate GPA, and they take it all in, and they take the bad with the good. So I think writing something kind of what you just put here is a great idea. So you just say, I was 16 years old, I was dual enrolled, I made these bad grades, I retook it, I made A's. I think the A's are a better reflection of my academic performance. That's what I would do if I were you.
Yeah,
I'm advising you. So
yes, and our office would say the exact same thing. That's something that writing an addendum, like I said earlier, our admission committee wants to learn about you. We want to learn as much as we can about you. Especially when it comes to grades, write that addendum. Like Shannon said, explain, the situation, explain what happened. And our admission committee takes all of that into consideration. So having that addendum in there really, really does help. We also have some short answer questions in our application that you'll see. That's also an opportunity if, we have some specific questions like that. If you feel compelled to write about that in your short answers, you can do that as well there as well, if you would like, but definitely the addendum.
All right, we'll move on to our next question for Tiffany and Sadler. This is from Madeline. How would law school help me if I want to go into forensic science?
I don't unmute myself. Candidly, I'm not sure. I mean, I think law school generally, like we talked about, is a really good one. You just have the degree and you can do whatever you want after that. But it also just teaches you how to think, creatively, how to assess problems and things like that. But obviously the curriculum is not exactly on point, but I think it's always a good experience, assuming you've got the time and money to spend on that and still get where you want to be in your forensic science career. That'll be my only caveat.
All right, so this will be for Tiffany and Sadler. Madeline was the one asking the question. Good name. So Tiffany or Sadler, whoever wants to start first.
I think the question was actually a different question for Tiffany and Sadler.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
No. So this may actually. Yes, you're correct. They don't have a specific person. Okay, they had Tiffany and Sadler for a second question. Okay, Sorry. So Madeline asked a question about law school. So thank you, Madeline, for answering Madeline. Aaliyah. So Aaliyah has a missions question. How does a gap year look on an application?
Fine.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, we have people that come from a very non-traditional background to people that go straight from school or people that take a gap year. You see everything about that. We see that in a lot of different applicants. And so if you take a gap year, talk about what you did during that. Did you do an internship, externship? Did you travel? Things like that. Let us know in that application. So we learn that you filled that year with something that helped benefit you to come to law school.
And Madeline, my apologies for that earlier. Elizabeth Bennett has a question for Tiffany and Sadler. How did you find time to study for your LSAT and take undergrad classes at the same time? And any tips on how to study for the LSAT?
You want me to go first, Sadler?
You can bite, it's fine.
Okay. So I think there's a lot of caveats to this. For me personally, I was extremely busy when the cycle of admissions started. So that's usually around September every year. It just kind of depends on the school. I was, in big leadership positions. I was really bogged down with class. I had some family stuff going on. And so I knew that I couldn't take the LSAT until probably January the following year. So I kind of evaluated how I know my study habits are, and I think that that's really key. So are you the type of person that needs to be held accountable by, let's say you pay to take a class, or are you the type of person that can check out a book in the library and you will discipline yourself and pace yourself in order to take the exam? The LSAT's just kind of its own special beast. So I think it's a lot of just reflection on what you know about yourself as a student and looking at the different resources that are available. There's some free classes, but there's a lot of reputable companies like PowerScore, who also has a lot of options for classes. So yeah, I think it's just kind of knowing who you are and how you could best approach it.
Anything to add, Sadler?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great answer, but also just like, the LSAT is like your first step into the legal world. And so I think everybody to some aspect has talked about time management, and that's where like it really starts to focus in. So it's about, setting aside, however far you start out, setting aside, 30 minutes to an hour every day just to spend on LSAT studying. That being said, I got a little lucky with it because I took the LSAT during COVID and there was nothing else going on. Like I had nothing. And so, I could just study for that. I thought for me, the most helpful thing studying was the practice tests. I tried to just take as many practice tests as I could find. And as I went through, I would just do like, especially starting out, just like 3 questions at a time, see what I got right, see what I got wrong, and really spend time understanding why I got wrong what I did. And so for me, that was definitely the most beneficial thing in taking it.
Thank you, Sadler. So Gregory has a question for the admissions team. Could we do dual studies? I enjoy criminal or constitutional law and criminal law. If so, how does it work? Or should I actually just be focusing on one area?
I would almost kick this to our faculty member because we in admissions don't tell you what to take. In my experience as a law student, you can take whatever you want to take. And I also would say that criminal law overlaps with constitutional law a lot. So
would you agree with that, Kat, to kick it off the faculty?
Yeah, we can turn it over to Emily Davey. I'll say one thing. If you come and take a tour with us, we're happy to sit down with you, and we have a list of our courses printed out and some classes you can take. And we also have a book that walks through some of the classes you would take each year. So I'll turn it over to Emily. But one thing that we can do from an admission standpoint is walk you through different types of classes. But yes, you can take a lot of different classes in a lot of different areas. So I'll turn it over to Professor Davey.
To answer exactly what Shannon and Kat said, you can take whatever you would like. We require both con law and criminal law. So you'll take the basic courses of those. When you get to your 2L and 3L year, you can pick electives that are criminal law based and con law based. Like we have an interesting seminar about religion, and that might interest you from a con law perspective. And then you might take on the criminal law perspective. You might take a seminar that deals with race and jury selection or something like that. So you can merge the two and take whatever you would like.
Thank you, Emily. So Tiffany and Sadler, how many schools did you apply to, and what was the primary factor in decision? Maddox Rose is asking this. Go ahead, Sadler. I'll let Sadler start this time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So I applied to about 5 law schools. My first thing in picking those law schools was they had to be in the South. Loved Notre Dame, loved my time at Notre Dame. It's too cold. I couldn't do the winters up there. So I was like, I'm gonna live in the South long term, so I'm gonna go down south for law school. The second thing, and the reason I really chose Cumberland, was the community was just so important to me. You hear some horror stories about law school and about like how hard it is and how terrible those 3 years were, but they set you up for the rest of your life. And I mean, that doesn't have to be true. Like, you can go somewhere where you can enjoy being in school for 3 years and be around people that enjoy being in school for 3 years and still be like professionally prepared. And so, that was the biggest thing I saw in Cumberland. And since being here, it's been the most true thing about it. So
fantastic. So I am going to no, Alexandra briefly mentioned something. We're going to go to her question. So Alexandra asked for admissions and students. What did you do to study for your LSAT? I know that UGA has an online LSAT course for the summer. Are there other programs, books, or other sources in order to help me prep for LSAT? And whoever would like to start.
I feel like the students did a good job of addressing this already. Like, there's a lot of different resources, and it's going to depend on how you study, what your pocketbook looks like, because some are going to be more expensive than others. I would recommend taking advantage of maybe like free stuff through Khan Academy. But we in law admissions don't have any one recommendation over the other. You do what works best for you.
Excellent. Moving on to our next question for Gregory, also for admissions. Say if they have a high LSAT but a low GPA, what's their chances of being accepted?
We love splitters. What about you, Kat? We love splitters.
Yeah, and I mean, I think yeah, I mean, you see that happening every day. We see a lot of that. I think, it comes more, you start looking at the application as a whole, like we've talked about, looking at it a holistic review. So it's a lot more than just the LSAT and GPA that we look at. So while I wish we could say, what your percentage would be of getting in, I think it really just depends and looks at the application as a whole. And for all of the schools that you're looking at applying to, look at those medians, look at the bottom 25th percentile, 75th percentile, look at that. And then also make sure that you're telling us about who you are through that personal statement, letters of recommendation, resume, things like that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So moving on to our next question. This will be with Gabrielle. Admissions team, do internships over summer boost my chances of admission? So again, kind of pointing back into that whole category we talked about previously. I'll kind of answer this for you guys. Whatever you can do to help yourself, because again, this is a holistic approach to admissions with either program that you're looking at. And a lot of law schools outside of the 2 that we have here today have a holistic admissions approach. So definitely look at the internships. If it's going to help you out, you don't have to specifically do internships in law, but something that can give you some work experience, something that can give you leadership experience, writing opportunities, clerking opportunities, whatever. This will be great. And I don't know, Shannon, Kat, agree? Yep. Okay. We'll move to James's question for admissions. How much time should we expect until we hear back from law schools after we have applied to them?
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, we're right about the same. We encourage people to apply by December 31st. By doing that, you get a little bit of a faster response, because come January, February, we have a lot more applications rolling in, so it might take a little bit longer. But I would say expect that about 8-week mark.
Fantastic. We're going to just keep harping on the admissions team. So Lee has a question. Next to professors, who is the next best option for letters of recommendation to your schools?
Bosses, supervisors. I would also say don't overlook TAs or instructors. Don't get hung up on whether sorry, don't get hung up on whether or not it's like tenure track professor.
Oh, Kat, you're muted.
Thank you. Completely agree with that. One thing that I would probably stay away from a little bit is, I think a lot of people will try to get a big name attorney or something like that that is a friend of a friend of a friend that they don't really know each other, and we can tell that when reading their letter of recommendation. So it means a lot more to have professor or boss or TA, someone that has had direct work experience or class experience with them, over, a big name that they don't really know.
Fantastic. Back to admissions, Maddie. When should I look at taking the LSAT? If they're not sure about starting law school, right after they graduate from regular college, or that?
I mean, the score is good for 5 years. So just, yeah, there's no like right or wrong. Like if you could take it between your junior and senior year, you could take it after you graduate, just know that it's good for 5 years.
Fantastic. Cap, anything else you want to add?
No, the only thing I would add is we really recommend, if you are going to go straight in from undergrad into law school, maybe try to start taking it that summer before you go into your senior year, just to give you enough time. If hopefully you only have to take it once, but if you do need to take it again, you'll have plenty of time and don't have to stress out. But if you are a senior and you haven't taken it yet, there is still time, not to make anyone panic, but just make sure you do give yourself enough time just in case you do need to take it again.
Fantastic. So Greg asked another question, and we don't have a specific individual that we're addressing it to.
Is this about working in law school?
You have the externship opportunities, so maybe this would be good for you to answer.
Sure. So one thing I want to really stress is, if you don't have to work during your first year of law school, don't work. The grades that you make in your first year determine a lot about what's going to happen in your career. So if you have the option not to work, don't do that. After that, I think, yes, take every opportunity you have to intern, get class credit, work in externships in the legal field. That's what you need to be doing to bolster your resume to look for that permanent job.
Thank you, Emily. For our admissions team, again, is there a better chance of being accepted during the early admissions time period?
We at Cumberland, we do a rolling admission, and so we see applications coming in starting September 1st all the way through when our application closes on May 1st. So if you're applying in April, the class is most likely filling up at that point. So that is a little more of a tight subject there. But if you're applying, we like I said, recommend before December 31st. But if you're applying after that as well, the class is not full at that point. So it doesn't make it specifically a difference on time period, but definitely as you get closer to May 1st, the class is really starting to fill up at that point. I also saw a quick question about taking the LSAT again after you've submitted an application. We do, if you have not been admitted at that point, we do consider your new LSAT score coming in. If you have been admitted and you take, for some reason take the LSAT again and get a higher score, let us know, and we review your LSAT again for scholarship consideration and can give you a higher scholarship most likely if you have a higher LSAT. So we do take into your LSAT if you take it again and get a higher score if you're still within our admission cycle.
Gotcha. And that was a question from Michaela. So last question for this
Well,
session.
I need to answer that early question because it's different for us.
Yeah.
So we have an early binding application process, December 1, where you're telling us, if admitted, I will come. It is binding. That could improve your chances of admission. Now, if you apply regular admission, earlier is going to be better for the same reasons that Kat described. We admit on a rolling basis. We've been admitting since September. Our priority merit scholarship deadline is February 1. And we start to receive commitments in April. So keep that all in mind.
Fantastic. Just due to time, last question is going to be for both Wil and Madeline, and they have answered in chat. But if they want to speak any further onto it, I'm free to unmute and answer. But the question was, what is your quality of life like, and how many hours per week do you work?
I think I know, I think I answered it. As far as the quality of life part, it is getting better. I think I'm learning how to set some boundaries for myself. And also, I'm very just one track mind. So if I've got something going on at work, I want to just work until it's handled. It's not always the best way to do it. So I'm learning how to take some breaks, carve some time out. As long as the work gets done, the firm does not care. So I've got to just figure out what that looks like for me.
Thank you, Madeline. Will.
Mine's different now as a judge. It's get the work done. I mean, if it was helping out with a trial week and I'm presiding for a trial week and have evidentiary things I need to take a look at, then I'll work in the evening. But now as a magistrate judge and juvenile judge, it's during the day, and then I'll be on call for arrest warrants, search warrants, and first appearances. And so, but that's not bad in a small town. I'll get some calls in the morning, and then about every third evening, get a call for a quick search warrant. And then first appearances will take about an hour. I'll do those Saturday mornings. And then if another person gets arrested, I need to do that, then I'll do that for, Sunday afternoon real quick and try to get it done for the weeks I'm on call. So public defender was a lot more work. Like Ms. Pendley, in litigation, you're just in trial weeks there, you're just busier. And I didn't ever leave at 5, hardly. As a public defender, it was working late till 5:36. If it was a court date coming up, trial week or calendar call, you're working late into the evening. So
Thank you, Will. And again, thank you to all of our presenters for their time. And they have busy schedules, guys. And I'm just very thankful that they were able to come and speak a little bit about their different kinds of expertise. I am going to share my screen right now. I do want to recognize a few individuals: Chandler Girton, Daniel Bell, Karina Snyder, Lisa Walker, Dr. Scott Meacham with PSIA, and Taylor Orr for helping create and promote the event. And also special thanks to all our panelists for taking their time to talk to you guys about law school and all the intricacies within the legal profession as well. This concludes our session, and if there are any further questions, feel free to reach out to your advisor or to your faculty member about those questions. I will ask our panelists if they would like to be contacted, that we can continue on this conversation afterwards outside of the Zoom event. But again, thank you for your attendance, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.